Hello, this video is what I think about the David Wilcock, David Fulcrum thingy going on or whatever. I'll write it on the comment section. Somebody gave me this request today, and so I shall do it. Conspiracy theory stuff. Yeah, I YouTubed it, and they had their conversation there, and it was like an hour and 48 minutes of them talking, and I got 51 minutes into it, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and make the video now because I think I have a basic idea what they're talking about. And I did hear this other video of that somebody else sent me, that Time sent me a couple weeks ago, of David Wilcock, I guess, death threat. Yeah, so basically what I understand is going on is David Wilcock talked to some dude who was an insider, and then he put it on his website. So then somebody called him. This is the first video I saw. Somebody called him, and they said that if he's tortured, he would be lucky. So he's out there talking to that lady from Project Camelot. I guess she has her own like radio show now. And but he's like crying. He's like, they're gonna kill me. They just told me. And she's like, calm down, it's okay. But I guess he was freaked out because he had some meeting with some dude who was like in the loop or something like that about like Illuminati types, plugged in, super wealthy, mafioso people were moving a bunch of gold around, like importing a bunch of gold back to America or something like that, and they were going to use that gold to take over the world and stuff, and so they didn't like that, so they threatened him with death, and he was all freaked out. So then they brought in some dude, and I think, what was it, Anonymous? Some dude affiliated with Anonymous? Somebody asked me to do a video about Anonymous a few months ago, like 3 months ago. And I guess Anonymous is some group who made a video where they were like, we're going to hack into Facebook and shut Facebook down. And I made a video about that. And I was like, that's probably just a bunch of like grumpy like kids who don't have anything better to do but to, you know, and are jealous about all the social networking, and they don't want to get their faces up there. So they want to like, you know, they want to like freak people out and cause a problem just to make themselves feel strong or something. And I was listening to a couple of Alex Jones radios, and he thinks Alex Jones thinks Anonymous is part of the government to try to infiltrate and freak people out, so people are going to be more willing to accept government control because they're going to think that there's like this threat out there. And I think that makes sense because there's lots of groups within the government, big businesses who need to keep secrets in order to keep their business going the way that it's going, like the bankers, the Federal Reserve bankers who don't want to let anybody know what they're doing with the money. And if they say they're going to hack into Facebook and you know, the vigilantes who don't like Facebook and they're going to hack into it because Facebook spies on U.S. citizens and they're just stooges for the CIA and like thinking that they can make people go, when next time the government writes a bill, you know, like privacy bill or whatever, and we're gonna shut down. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking, but yeah, they think maybe they can get people to be more tolerant of secrecy. You know, people are gonna want to, which kind of brings up a point. People want more transparency for the government, and I've said this bunches of times. If you want to get more transparency for the government, just be more transparent yourself. And I know this goes against what pretty much everybody says. Like, everybody wants the privacy. I watch the Young Turks, and they're like, yeah, we got to have the privacy. Ron Paul, yeah, we got to protect the privacy and not have the government snoop in on you. And everybody, you know, privacy. Well, if people don't give a fuck about their privacy, and they allow people to snoop in on them and know what the hell they're doing, and hell, you know, uploading videos, talking to them, sharing what they know about stuff, then it's going to be, then any government who tries to be secretive is going to be glaringly obvious that they are against the status quo of the people, that they're going against what the people are. If everybody is open in an open society and your government's secret, then, your people's ears should prick up. But if everybody wants to be secret and private and, be anonymous, then then the government's going to get away with being more anonymous. It's the same thing. So, yeah, it seems kind of interesting. But yeah, so maybe anonymous is like that. They're trying to freak people out to make people want their privacy more, so that the government can have more privacy and they can get away with, prolonging the auditing of the Federal Reserve and snooping in, counting the ballot boxes and all that stuff. But anyways, so David Wilcock, he's all freaking out, and some dude calls in. I guess he's the anonymous guy. And he's just like some older, like Scottish dude who's like, don't worry, laddie. We are in control of everything. We have the power. We have so much power that you don't even know where I'm calling you from. You don't even want to know where I'm calling you from. I'm so far away. We have the kind of power that we could make you suffer even after you die. And David Wilcock was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like, you can make people suffer after they die? Like, so you're saying that you're an interdimensional being? You're an anonymous group is an interdimensional alien group who can kill you, and then when you get reincarnated in the spirit realm, they're like, gotcha! And they can like hook you up to the electric diodes and like electrocute your balls, your like spirit balls on the other side or something. That shit is the same exact stuff as what the Catholic Church tried to pull on people 2,000 years ago. If you don't pay the Pope 500 sestertii, we're going to put you to hell, and you're going to have to burn in hell for all of eternity. Trying to freak people out even on the other side. That's how you control people. You freak people out and make them think somehow through magic or intimidation or something. Try and freak them out and think that you have an influence over them on the other side as well. People used to believe in reincarnation back in the good old days. And they'd fight you and they'd be like, but I would have the happy hunting fields, the illusion fields. Oh, but I will reincarnate into another body. The ancient Greeks believe in reincarnation. I will reincarnate into another warrior body and I will kill you in my next life, But then they're like, oh, no. Become Christian. If you're not become Christian, then you burn in hell for all of eternity and unless I give you my blessings. It's the same shit, that dude. So I don't know. I was like, and I heard David Wilcock go, yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, dude, are you... Oh, shit. I never thought David Wilcock would get UFO-itis, where you believe so much shit and you become so fucking gullible that you believe anything. And then your mind is so open that your fucking brains are spilling out all over the floor. So, man, I didn't think that happened to him. But yeah, so anyways, that's what I think about. And when I was hearing that anonymous dude, I got this feeling in my gut that he wasn't even Scottish. Like he was just putting on a false Scottish accent. Or that wasn't his normal accent. He was like putting on a show. And he's like, yes, and we went skiing today with my friends. So I think what the anonymous group is, and a lot of like sabotage, like a lot of these like Illuminati types, I think what they, like the people who do the chemtrails and stuff, I think what they are they're like second generation multimillionaires. They're like the son of the DuPont family. Remember that kid from the DuPont family who murdered that Olympic wrestling coach like 15 years ago? He thought he was like the greatest wrestler ever, and he'd go in and he donated a lot of money to the U.S. wrestling team because he thought he was, and they tolerated his bullshit because he donated so much money. But he went in and he thought that he was like the greatest wrestler ever, and he'd wrestle and they'd let him win, and then he'd be like, yeah, but he was just like retarded kid. And he freaked out because he was such a dick. They kicked him out, and so he killed the coach. And that's kind of like the idea that I get of like this anonymous dude. That dude, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go and skiing with my, on my daddy's money, with my friends. And then we're going to come and we're going to plot more taking over of the world, All these people, they've watched like too many James Bond movies, They want to be like Goldfinger. Dun, dun. You know, they have so much fucking money they don't know what to do with. So they come up with these ideas of, we're going to take over the world and we're going to kill 90% of the population. Yay. But I think they are kind of, I mean, I have to say this, and I feel a little bit like my brain's opening up and falling over the floor, but it appears to me like these super rich, wealthy, you know, take over the world types who, you know, engineered the Vietnam War to sell opium to America, and the Bushes imported cocaine to America, and they justified it because, well, if they don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, so they might as well do it, and drugs are illegal, and we got to make the drugs legal so we can make all this money clandestinely. All that shit makes sense to me, though, because of how secret the government is, you know. The only reason I see why they would need a Federal Reserve to keep it secret, and why they're all, you know, why the government is so fake, you know, every time you hear the president talk, he just talks about empty bullshit and doesn't explain anything. And they don't ever take anything seriously. And somebody's like, when are you going to legalize weed? And he's like, oh, whatever, even though everybody thinks weed should be legal. Just because of the way the government handles that stuff, it leads me to believe that shit's actually true. That those Illuminati types, you know, I'm going to call them Illuminati types, those like super rich people who have power to take over the world and do all this crime are actually are plugged in to the government. But it's the question is, how much are they plugged into the government? And I don't think they're, and I'm sure everybody would agree with me, you know, all the David Wilcock, David Icke, Alex Joneses out there are going to agree with me on this, and that all the government isn't part of them. There's plenty of really totally pure government people in there. It's just like fringe groups around there who are plugged in. And it makes sense to think of it like that, because big businesses mixed in with the government, and these big companies have crazy family members in there who get their allowances and then can go nuts and do all kinds of crazy shit. So, but they're just like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're just stupid people who don't know what to do with their money, and there's not something to like take seriously, I don't think. Unless they get way too rich, you know? That's why I made the video last night. There shouldn't be no billionaires. Because then, you know, if there's billionaire, then the kid gets the $1 billion and he didn't earn it. And he's just some crazy dude. It's kind of like, if you look at the Roman Empire, you had some good Caesars, like Claudius was a pretty good Caesar. Pretty good emperor of Rome. But then he was poisoned by his wife so that his stepson Nero could become emperor. And so now Nero's the emperor, and he didn't do anything to deserve it, but he's got all the power in the world, and he did some crazy shit, you know? He like set Rome on fire and then annexed all of the center of Rome and built his gigantic 160-room palace and created his own lake. And, you know, and then you got like Caligula, who's just running through the streets murdering people, basically a gangster. And that's how it works. That's why we need to, you know, inheritance taxes for really rich is a good thing. And it's not just a good thing as like a fair thing to get the economy stimulated, but it's a good thing as in though it's like a necessary thing to keep people safe. It's to keep people safe from these, you know, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's basically what I think about that. But basically what that guy was saying with David Wilcock was that it was kind of interesting. It was kind of like a history lesson. I guess this dude, I can't remember his name, but he worked for Forbes magazine, and he's fluent in Japanese, but he's a white dude. And he wrote 30 books about, I guess, economic stuff, and he worked for Forbes magazine as like the editor of the Asian market, and it's the biggest financial magazine in the world. And so he would interview big businesses who'd want to bring their advertise their business on the magazine and advertise what they're doing, get featured in the magazine, and then like politicians and stuff. And so he was plugged in, and they offered him like the minister. I guess he started knowing things and reporting on stuff, and he said if he reported that as a Japanese, he would have been murdered. And but since he was an American, he could get away with saying stuff. But they tried to shut him up by offering him like a position that he didn't take, and then they discredited him, and they said that everything he said was bullshit, and then he had to like retire or something like that. And so now he came off and he talked to Dave Wilcock, which I guess somebody gave David Wilcock the death threat and freaked him out. But the kind of stuff that he was saying was that that World War II was all about how Japan wanted to get their hands on the gold that was in China. And I don't know if they took over India, but yeah, apparently China had a lot of gold. And he said that over the last like thousands of years, all the gold had ended up in Asia. And that's actually true. Since the days of the Roman Empire, there was lots of trade going on between the Roman Empire and India. And I don't know if like ancient Egypt was doing this trade. They probably were. But the Roman Empire was doing trade with India. They had their empire under Trajan there for about 16 years. It wasn't very long, but they had all of Kuwait. And so all that beachfront property of Kuwait, which isn't so far from India, and they were trading with India. And then after Octavius Caesar took over Egypt, they started doing lots of trade with India through the Red Sea, and they were trading for a long time, and because they wanted the silk and then of course they did the Silk Road too with China, and because India had lots of spices and silk, and what they were buying it with was gold. That's what the Romans had to offer and the Europeans had to offer. They paid them the gold and they gave them the silk. And, they weren't able to make their own silk for some reason. Maybe it wasn't the right climate. The Byzantines tried to import silk eggs back in like the 1300s or something, and I don't even know if they were successful. But yeah, it was basically a one-way siphoning of gold. So by the 20th century, most of the gold in the world had ended up in Asia. A lot of gold came over to Europe from North America. And so that was a little bit more of an influx. But for a long time, since the ancient times, yeah, a lot of gold had been going over to Asia. So I guess they were saying that these Asians, the Japanese invaded China so that they get their hands on China's like Fort Knox. I guess they had a Fort Knox over there. And the guy's like, yeah, most people say you could fill up all the gold mined in the whole world in 2 Olympic swimming pools, but it's more like 10 times that much because it's all over the place. And so he's like, yeah, so they're moving gold around. And so maybe these really rich people, maybe what's going on is these really rich people who this dude has the ear of, these like Yakuza mafia types who are just rich people who are plugged in. They think that they're going to collapse the world and we're going to get so primitive that we're going to have to go to a gold standard again. And so whoever has the most gold is the richest. And kind of makes sense that it's crazy. You'd have to be crazy to think that, but if there's people who, and they just look at the data and I think one important thing is to understand the mentality of the ultra wealthy who don't really work. They're really sequestered from the rest of society. They hang out with each other. They hang out with other rich people. If you go and you meet like really, really, really rich people, and especially really, really rich people from old money, like in the good old days of aristocracy and stuff, and it's actually glaringly obvious if you look in the past that only the rich hang out with the rich. But even these days, really rich people and really like big businesses, all of their friends are other rich people. And so they go to their country club and they hang out with their other rich friends, and they go skiing with their friends, and they go golfing with their friends, and they live their whole lives and they've never actually hung out with any normal people. So they don't know anything about normal people. They just think, and then they see how easy it is for them to be rich because they've had money all their whole lives without having to work for it. They think that people are stupid for allowing them to be so rich. So then they think that because the people are so stupid for allowing them to be so rich, that they deserve to be poor. Because if they were smarter, they would know about how rich the other rich people were, and they would rebel against it. And So then they kind of add insult to injury, and then they just think that they're just the rabble, the useless eaters, the mass, and they just think they can do whatever the fuck they want. And then they, especially when you have slavery. Slavery did a real mental job on slave owners, like in America. Thomas Jefferson actually wrote about that. He said he hated slavery because it wasn't just bad for the slaves who had to endure disrespect, but it was also bad for the slave owners because it takes away their character, and it basically turns them into assholes. And so, yeah, so it does kind of make sense that there'd be these really rich people out there who they look around the world and they see the world, the current trends of the world, which are making the world more of a level playing field. And it's pretty clear that the world is becoming a more level playing field. Everybody has the same access to information. Even though the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer, technically, when you look at the raw data, the poor are actually becoming richer too, because stuff is getting cheaper to get their hands on, like high tech stuff, computers and access to information is getting cheaper. So quality of life is actually going up. A lot of people like to say it's not, but it's only not going up in terms of people don't have as much money to waste on fossil fuels and stuff. But at the end of the day, we have computers. You could get a computer on a week's wages these days, week's minimum wages these days, that could kick the ass of the best computers 10 years ago. So the quality of life is going up, and people are coming up, and it's becoming more and more possible to make money by getting an education. Anybody could, if they really wanted to, could afford an education and get the job and basically move into the level of the aristocracy and take them over. And that scares them. They look at that and they go, oh my God, the rabble, they're going to come up, and they think they're so isolated from the normal people for so long that they think that they're better than them, like that they're genetically better than them, and that they're just generally, they deserve to be in their place, even though they didn't really do anything to deserve it. They were just found themselves there because they're in the right family, or they're in the right club or group or whatever. And they get in their idea that it's some kind of dog-eat-dog world, and so I think it just scares them, and it freaks them out, and they go, oh no, population, and all the black people are going to move out of Africa and come at us in big hordes. And it's going to be the end of society because they're all going to compete with my job, and then they're going to bring their black African culture, their Middle Eastern Muslim culture to my country and make my country like their country, which is a genuine fear that normal people have. But I think what people should understand is that, when fundamentalist Muslims move to Norway and stuff, they eventually become Norwegian. Maybe not the first generation, but the second generation. When you have a society that's open and it's better, and it functions better because people get to say what they want and do what they want. It's pretty clear to everybody that it's like that. And yeah, sometimes there's problems that are caused by immigrants coming from closed societies who annoy people. But I don't think it's ever going to get past an annoyance. I don't know of any historical examples of that. The only one I can think of is the Kosovars who moved into southern Serbia, and then they made their own country. But Kosovars aren't more primitive people than the Serbians. It's not like the Gypsies moved in and then created their own country, and then the country fucked up. And I guess maybe the Ottoman Empire you could kind of say is like that, because the Turks were these Mongolian barbarians, and then took over all of southeastern Europe, and then they become the poorest country, the old sick man of Europe, but for a long time the Ottoman Empire, there was actually it wasn't the sick man of Europe, but Yeah, but I think we need to have faith, and the poor people, and the black people, and the brown people, and know that, I mean, that's something that American understands more than anybody else, is that it's not about race. There's plenty of Americans, and you look around, and their grandparents moved over from some India, and they look Indian, Harold and Kumar types. But you talk to them, and they're Americans. It's not like you're going to expect them to start robbing you or try and tell you about the, um, um, bad omens and stuff, and chanting and some sacrificing goats and stuff in your living room. I mean, yeah. So I think that's the problem with these rich people is we need to try to bring the rich people back down to earth. But yeah, as far as what that guy says about those people doing that, I'm sure that it's true to an extent, but I don't think it's anything worth freaking out about. I don't think, if they're moving gold around, it's like a bunch of stupid kids playing like gambling in their mama's basement on the weekends. It's not going to have any real effect. They're just buying gold and trading gold, and maybe they're going to try to kill a bunch of people because they got their hands in like Monsanto, and they're going to genetically modify the corn to make people so that they can't reproduce. I don't think the people who do that are going to be very successful, because it's not the status quo. It's just like fringe groups, and it's nothing to freak out about. If you want to change the world, it's definitely good to talk about that stuff, because even if it's not true, it causes people to think about it and to have their ears pricked, and to cause the people in power to defend themselves. To actually say, no, we're not doing that. Look, and this is what we are, and to make everything transparent. And then you could get any crazy conspiracy theorist to say that, but then they're not going to be able to prove it, and so nobody's going to believe them. But as long as the government is secretive about stuff, throw your hat in the ring and being a conspiracy theorist. I have on my YouTube channel, put this on your page if 911 is an inside job. And I put that there because the main reason I put that there is because I don't like the secrecy of the government. And they're asking people to think that. Do I actually believe 9/11 is an inside job? I didn't even really believe that when I put that there. I just put it there because it's like, fuck the government. They're not taking this whole investigation seriously. They never answered why that building fell at the speed of gravity. Which actually makes me think it wasn't an inside job. How in the fuck does another big building collapse just because two buildings got hit by airplanes and they collapsed? Doesn't make any sense. When they collapse buildings, it's hard. They have to put dynamite in the right place, and they still don't barely even crash with the speed of gravity. So just that alone. But anyways, yeah, that's basically what I understand, what I think about that, and what I understand about that. But as far as if you want to change the world, I think really if you want to change the world, yeah, spreading the word and that kind of stuff is great, but we need to just change ourselves. You can't accuse the government of being secretive and making bad laws and all this stuff if you don't know how the laws are written, and you don't know the better law to have it. Somebody goes, oh, this law is bad, your law is bad, your law is bad. Well, the first thing, if I was a politician and I heard somebody say that to me, the first thing I would say is, well, what's your law? What's your proposal then? I mean, that's kind of how I deal in my YouTube videos with all like the sniper trolls. They're like, you're a douchebag or whatever. I'm like, why? You're wrong about that. Well, what's the right answer? And if the people can't give you the right answer, it's like, oh, okay, you're just an idiot then. Bye. And it kind of actually justifies the rich people in power who have the education, at least enough to know what the laws are. And then they make bad laws, but at least they know what the bad laws are, So yeah, the problem with that though, the problem with like my proposal is that you just got to redesign it from the ground up and know what all the laws are. Is it takes fucking time. It takes a lot of time. And that's where the education system comes in. The education system is designed to waste your time, to waste so much of your fucking time by the time you're 22 years old, you don't want any more of it. You're like, I'm done with this studying bullshit. Let me just go get my job as like a manual laborer, you know? So many people go to college for 4 years, don't learn jack shit. They still don't know what the laws are or what they know about anything or vote. You know, 40% of the people in America vote. And then they just go and get some like labor job. So school is just something to like basically brainwash you. School is a thing that you go to basically to learn, to just learn bullshit until you're like drooling and you get out and you just don't want to know any more of that studying stuff. So what school needs to be is just a wide open place where they expect you to basically know everything and at your own pace. And they have all these open tests and they're like, okay, take the test whenever you want, wherever you want, all these tests, go for it. And then put it up and then put yourself up on your website. Use the technology and post your scores of all the tests and write your opinions of all the laws and your ideas of all the laws. The problem with that is that it takes time. But the problem with school is that they waste a fuckload of your time. So instead of wasting a fuckload of your time learning chemistry and mathematics and shop and home economics and all this stupid crap that they make you show up in school like and just like watch the teacher like blabbity 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 when you could be watching it on YouTube. You know, you gotta use up this the new technology we have and use and have lecture time be something you do in your own time where you learn in your own time and get the lectures, and then school is a place where you get unstuck with the tutoring, people helping each other, but you can always take tests. I so do not understand the logic behind people can only take tests on a certain day of the year. You know, when I was in school, you could only take the SATs on the SAT day, like one day of your whole year. It's like, what happens if you were sick that year? Oh, whoops, no SAT for you. You should be able to take the SAT whenever you want. There's ways to make sure that people don't cheat. You just put a video camera up and film it. And then you say if somebody is caught cheating, then you fuck them over and you don't let them take it again. You know, or you just have lots of SAT tests and you just have the teacher up there watching them. You know, that's what video cameras are for. So yeah, you just got to replace it, but and make yourself transparent so that they're transparent. But that's basically what I think about that. But I don't really need to watch the other half of that video unless somebody else says that it's worth watching it or something else on it. But I don't really care about what stupid second generation multimillionaire brats are doing with all that money that they don't fucking know what to do with. They can continue to do their country club meetings where they can smoke the cigars and plot taking over the whole world by murdering people with this crop dusting and shit, the chemtrails or whatever the fuck they do. Who gives a fuck? Let them plot that crap and just do what you do as an individual to make the government more transparent. Because once the government transparentizes, oh no, then they're going to be like exposed, doing whatever the fuck they're doing. But I do agree that there's some rich ass motherfuckers that are crazy enough to do that shit. But the way I see it is that it's not the government doing it. It's just, you know, people like, it's the government. I don't think it's the government. I think it's just rich people who don't know what the fuck else to do with their money. I mean, think about all the rich. Think about how much you can do with $1 billion. Oh my God. You could cause a lot of problems. I mean, that's bigger. There's people with bigger budgets than entire countries, you know? Got some power. Anyways, yeah, that's what I think about that.